Hello, everyone, and welcome back to StoryNest Podcast. I'm really glad you're here today. Whether you're listening while you're driving, walking, studying, cooking, or simply relaxing, thank you for choosing to spend these next few minutes with me. If you've been following this series, you've probably noticed something important. Learning English isn't just about memorizing vocabulary. It isn't just about studying grammar. And it definitely isn't about becoming perfect. It's about changing the way your brain uses the language. Today's episode is about one of the biggest obstacles that almost every English learner faces. And the interesting thing is, many learners don't even realize they're doing it. That obstacle is translating every sentence in your head before you speak. Imagine this situation. Someone asks you a simple question. What did you do yesterday? You know exactly what you want to say, but instead of answering immediately, your brain starts working like a translator. First, you create the sentence in your native language. Then you search for every English word. Then you think about grammar. Then you change the word order. Then you wonder if your verb tense is correct. By the time you're finally ready to answer, the conversation has already moved on. Does that sound familiar? If your answer is yes, don't worry. You're far from alone. Millions of English learners experience exactly the same problem every day. The good news is that this habit can be changed. Not overnight, not in a week. But with the right kind of practice, your brain can learn to think directly in English. And when that happens, speaking becomes faster, more natural, and much more enjoyable. But before we talk about how to stop translating, let's understand why we started translating in the first place. Think back to your very first English lesson. Maybe you learned that apple means a fruit. Book means something you read. House means the place where people live. Almost every new word came with a translation. That's completely normal. Translation is actually a useful tool when you're a beginner. It helps you understand new ideas quickly. The problem begins when translation becomes a permanent habit. Instead of using English, you keep using your native language as the middle step. It's like trying to travel to your neighbor's house, but first flying to another country, and then coming back again. Eventually you'll arrive, but it takes much longer than necessary. Your brain is doing extra work that isn't helping you communicate. Native speakers don't translate. When an English speaker sees a dog, they don't think of another language first. They simply think, dog. The word and the image are connected immediately. That's exactly the connection you want your own brain to build. Instead of connecting native language English, you want to build picture English, feeling English, idea English. When those direct connections become stronger, your confidence grows naturally, and speaking starts to feel less like solving a math problem and more like having a real conversation. Now here's something that surprises many learners. Translating isn't only slow, it can also create mistakes. Why? Because languages don't work in exactly the same way. Every language has its own expressions, its own sentence structure, its own way of describing the world. If you translate every sentence word for word, you'll often produce sentences that sound strange. Sometimes they're understandable, sometimes they're confusing, and sometimes they're completely incorrect. That's why memorizing translations isn't enough. Understanding how English naturally expresses ideas is much more important. During today's episode, we'll explore practical ways to train your brain to think directly in English. These are techniques you can use every single day. They don't require expensive courses. They don't require hours of study. Most of them only take a few minutes. But over time, they can completely change the way you speak. So if you've ever felt stuck, if you've ever known the words but couldn't get them out fast enough, this episode is for you. Let's begin changing the way your brain approaches English. Not by working harder, but by working differently. Let's start with a simple question. Can you imagine the color blue? Take just 1 second. Don't say the word. Don't translate it. Just imagine the sky on a clear summer day, or the ocean stretching toward the horizon. You probably saw the color in your mind before you thought of the word. That's interesting, isn't it? Our brains naturally think in images, emotions, sounds, and experiences. Words simply give names to those ideas. When you're translating, you're adding an extra step that your brain doesn't really need. Instead of going from an image directly to an English word, you travel through your native language first. That extra stop slows everything down. Here's a small experiment you can try. Imagine a cat sleeping on a sofa. Now, instead of saying the sentence in your native language, say only 3 English words. Cat, sleeping, sofa. That's enough. You don't always need perfect grammar in your thoughts. The goal isn't to create perfect sentences inside your head. The goal is to create direct connections between ideas and English words. As those connections become stronger, your brain naturally starts adding grammar without so much effort. Think about young children learning their first language. Nobody gives them vocabulary lists. Nobody asks them to translate. They simply hear words connected to real situations. When someone points to water and says water, the child slowly connects the sound with the object. That connection becomes automatic. As adults, we can use the same principle. Whenever you learn a new English word, don't connect it to a translation. Connect it to a picture, a memory, an action, or an emotion. Let's take the word hungry. Instead of thinking, hungry equals, and then translating it, remember the feeling you have before lunch. Imagine your stomach making noise. Picture your favorite meal. Now the word has meaning without translation. Let's try another one. The word exhausted. Don't translate it. Remember the day you came home after a long day of work or school. You dropped onto your bed. You didn't want to move another muscle. That's exhausted. Your brain understands much more than definitions. It understands experiences, and experiences are much easier to remember than translations. This is also why stories are such powerful learning tools. Stories create pictures in your mind. They create emotions. They connect vocabulary to situations instead of isolated definitions. When you hear, "The little boy was freezing in the snow," you don't need to translate every word. You can imagine the scene, and suddenly the word freezing becomes unforgettable. That's one reason why listening to English stories is one of the best ways to improve your fluency. You stop focusing on individual words, and you start understanding ideas. Another helpful habit is something I call English observation. Wherever you are right now, look around. Maybe you're sitting in your room. Maybe you're on a bus. Maybe you're walking outside. Quietly name the things you see. Window. Chair. Phone. Tree. Road. Coffee. People. Don't worry about making complete sentences yet. Just build those direct English connections. After a few days, make it slightly more challenging. Instead of saying one word, use short phrases. Open window. Busy street. Old building. Hot coffee. Again, you're training your brain to stay inside English instead of jumping back to your native language. At first, it might feel strange. That's completely normal. Every new habit feels uncomfortable in the beginning. Imagine learning to ride a bicycle. The first few attempts feel awkward. You wobble, you lose your balance, maybe you even fall. But after enough practice, you stop thinking about balancing. Your body simply knows what to do. Thinking in English develops in exactly the same way. One day, you'll suddenly notice something surprising. You'll answer a question without translating first. You'll hear an English sentence and understand it immediately. You'll even dream in English someday. Many learners describe that moment as a huge turning point because that's when English starts feeling less like a school subject and more like a real language, and that's exactly where fluency begins. Now, let's talk about something that many learners worry about. They think, if I stop translating, won't I make more mistakes? The answer is, at first, maybe, but that's actually a good thing. Think about learning to swim. You can't become a confident swimmer by standing on the edge of the pool and reading books about swimming. At some point, you have to get into the water. It might feel uncomfortable. You might not move perfectly, but that's how real learning happens. Speaking English works the same way. If you wait until every sentence is perfect before you say it, you'll spend more time thinking than communicating. And communication, not perfection, is the real goal. Imagine you're visiting another country. A local asks, "Are you looking for the train station?" You want to answer, "Yes, I'm trying to find it." But instead of speaking, you begin translating every word in your head. You think about verb tenses. You wonder if trying is the correct word. You question your pronunciation. Meanwhile, the other person is still waiting. In real conversations, speed matters. Not because you need to speak quickly, but because conversations keep moving. People don't expect perfect English. They expect natural communication. In fact, native speakers make mistakes too. They forget words, they start a sentence and change it halfway through. Sometimes they repeat themselves. Sometimes they use simple language instead of complicated vocabulary. Communication is naturally imperfect, so don't put pressure on yourself to sound like a dictionary. Instead, aim to express your ideas clearly. Here's another habit that can help. When you don't know a word, don't stop. Describe it. For example, imagine you've forgotten the word umbrella. Many learners panic. They stop speaking or they switch back to their native language. Instead, try describing it. It's the thing you use when it rains. Most people will immediately understand. Or imagine you forget the word pharmacy. You could say, the place where you buy medicine. That's still successful communication. This skill is called paraphrasing, and surprisingly, native speakers use it all the time. Nobody knows every word. The difference is that confident speakers keep talking. They don't let one missing word stop the entire conversation. Another powerful exercise is called thinking out loud. Choose a simple activity: making breakfast, cleaning your room, walking to school, cooking dinner. As you do it, quietly describe your actions in English. I'm opening the fridge, I'm making some tea, I'm looking for my keys. The weather is really hot today. Don't worry if your sentences are simple. Simple English spoken consistently is much more valuable than perfect English that stays inside your head. Over time, these little moments add up. 5 minutes here, 3 minutes there, 10 minutes while walking. Without realizing it, you'll spend hours thinking in English every week. And because there's no pressure, your confidence will begin to grow naturally. Here's one more idea. Try giving yourself small daily challenges. Today, think in English for 1 minute. Tomorrow, try 2 minutes. Next week, aim for 5. You don't need to think in English all day. That's unrealistic for most learners. But small, consistent practice creates lasting results. Remember, fluency isn't built in one long study session. It's built through hundreds of small moments repeated again and again. Every time you choose English instead of translation, you're strengthening a new pathway in your brain. At first, that pathway feels weak, but every day it becomes stronger. And one day, you'll notice that English words appear in your mind automatically, not because you force them to, but because your brain has learned a new habit. That's the kind of progress that lasts. Before we finish today's episode, I'd like to leave you with a simple challenge. Not a difficult one, not something that requires hours of study, just one small habit that you can start today. For the next 7 days, choose one part of your daily routine. It could be brushing your teeth, making coffee, walking to school, driving to work, feeding your pet, or even organizing your desk. During that activity, make one promise to yourself. Think only in English. Don't worry if your thoughts are slow. Don't worry if you only know simple words. And don't stop to translate. If you don't know a word, skip it. Describe it another way, or simply continue with the words you already know. The important thing is to keep your brain inside English. At first, you'll probably notice long pauses. That's perfectly normal. Your brain is building a new habit, and every new habit takes time. Think about how you learned to type on a keyboard. In the beginning, you searched for every letter. You looked down constantly. You made mistakes. You felt slow. But after enough practice, your fingers started moving without conscious effort. Today, you probably don't think about where each key is. You simply type. Thinking in English develops in much the same way. The more often you do it, the less effort it requires. Eventually, you'll stop searching for every word. Your thoughts will begin to flow more naturally, and that's when conversations become enjoyable instead of stressful. There's another important point I'd like you to remember. Don't measure your progress by asking, "Am I fluent yet?" Instead, ask yourself questions like these. Did I understand more English today than I did last month? Did I hesitate a little less? Did I think in English for a few extra minutes? Did I speak even though I wasn't completely sure? Those are signs of real progress. Fluency isn't a single moment. It's the result of hundreds of small improvements that often go unnoticed. Some days will feel amazing. You'll remember lots of vocabulary. You'll understand almost everything you hear. Other days may feel frustrating. You'll forget simple words. You'll make mistakes you thought you'd already fixed. That's normal. Learning a language is never a perfectly straight path. There are good days, there are difficult days. What matters is that you keep moving forward. One conversation, one story, one podcast, one new habit at a time. So the next time you catch yourself translating every sentence, pause for a moment. Take a breath. Look at the idea you're trying to express, and ask yourself, can I say this using the English I already know? Most of the time, the answer is yes. It may not be perfect. It may not sound exactly the way you imagined, but communication isn't about perfection. It's about connection. And every time you choose to communicate instead of staying silent, you're becoming a stronger English speaker. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. I truly hope this episode helps you feel more confident the next time you speak English. If you enjoyed today's conversation, keep listening to StoryNest Podcast as we continue our journey together in the road to fluency. Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and most importantly, keep thinking in English. Take care, and I'll see you in the next episode.